At this time, I want to invite all of the children who are here with us, the young folk, to come down here and join me in the chancel, which is a very fancy word, the front of the church. Yes, okay. All right. If you want. Otherwise, you can stay where you're at. But we're going to have a word of blessing and talk about what today is. Today's a special, it's a holiday. It's a movable feast. Good morning. So, who is the founder of our faith? There's one right word for every children's message. Yeah. Jesus, that's right. You got it. You get an A. This is kind of a pass-fail sort of situation, but you nailed it. In our church, we have a couple of things that we do that we call sacraments. Sacraments is just a very fancy word for stuff Jesus told us to do. And so some people think there should be lots of sacraments. Jesus told us to do a lot of things. What are some of the things that Jesus told us to do? Yes? Be kind. Yes, that is very important. Did Jesus tell us to do anything else, or did he do anything else? Care for the poor. Yeah, all right, we're on a roll. And he told us to heal the sick, and he told us to visit people who are sick or who are in jail, and he told us to stand up for the oppressed and to speak out if there's injustice. He told us to do all of these things, and so in a certain way, all of these things are kind of sacraments. But today we are celebrating one special sacrament, and that is baptism. How many of you have seen a baptism? Yeah? How many of you have seen a baptism of a baby? How many of you have seen a baptism of a grown-up? Oh, a couple, yeah. I know, not so many yet. In this church, we tend to baptize folk when they're babies. But in some churches, they baptize people when they're grown-ups. And some people, they missed their baptism when they were a baby. Maybe there was a snow day. Who knows? And so they get baptized later on when they're grown-ups. But we believe that any Christian can baptize any other person. How many times do you get baptized? Once. That's right. We get baptized once. And so if you're a baby, sometimes it's kind of hard to remember when you got baptized. So your grown-ups remember it for you. Yeah?
My dad's baptism certificate got shredded up.
Your dad's baptism certificate got shredded up? Well, that's okay, because his baptism is recorded in the heavenly ledger. Which cannot be consumed by moth or rust. So you don't have to worry too much about that. And we can make your dad a new baptism certificate at any time. He just can get a hold of Sally in the office. So, was Jesus a baby or a grown-up when he got baptized? This is a tough one. A grown-up, right. He was a grown-up when he got baptized. He got baptized by his cousin, John, right? Who was also one of his very best friends. And so we have baptism, and then we also have communion. Do we celebrate communion once or a bunch of times? A bunch of times, yep. So we have one sacrament that we do once, and one sacrament that we do a bunch of times. And they're connected to each other. They're connected to each other because some people like to say he gave us a bath and a meal, right? Because the bath is the water, and the meal is something that we celebrate together all the time. They're very simple sacraments. What do you need in order to take communion? What do you need for communion? You need two things. Bread and grape juice. Yep, and we, any kind of bread, any kind of juice. Some people like to use crackers and grape juice. Some people like to use donuts and coffee. Some people use a lot of different things. Jesus never tells us specifically what to use, so we kind of let there be some flexibility in that. But that's really easy to do. There's a couple things you can find anywhere. You don't have to go on a big quest to find the ingredients for communion. What do you need for baptism? Water. Yeah, oh, and a baby or a grown-up. Yeah, a person to baptize, yes, that is critically important. And some water, right? Is water hard to find? No. What about clean water? Is clean water hard to find?
No, unless you live next to a lake.
Yeah, unless you live next to a lake. Yeah, clean water is getting harder and harder to find these days, right? Because we're kind of messing our nest. But we know that communion and baptism were important to Jesus. And so that's one of the reasons in our tradition we don't have holy water. How many of you have heard of holy water? And some of you, it shows up in movies a lot. I don't know why. Well, we don't have holy water in our tradition because we believe that all water is holy water. And that's why we try to be water protectors too. We try to make sure that people don't put pollution in the water. Well, I said that we only celebrate baptism once. And since most of us here were baptized when we're babies, we have something else that we do that we're celebrating today on behalf of Jesus, and that's called the remembrance of our baptism. It's sort of like communion. It's something that we do a lot. We do it 3 or 4 times a year. And we have water here, which is the same water of baptism. It's the same exact water that we're all baptized in this beautiful baptism font. And as we remember Jesus' baptism, we try to remember our own baptism. So if you were baptized at any point between your birth and now, I want you to remember that you're a child of God, and remember that you, just like Jesus, are a child of his baptism. So as you remember your baptism, let us share a word of blessing. Go ahead and raise your hands and repeat after me. Today, we remember our baptism. Amen. All right, now you're free to go to your worship centers or wherever you're heading now. Remember your baptism. Bill, remember your baptism as well. Chloe?